Welcome to RuralStrong, where we talk real challenges and bold solutions in rural economic development. I'm your host, Joe Barker. Let's get into it. Welcome to RuralStrong. This is your podcast host, Joe Barker, and we're coming to you today from the Southwest Tennessee Development District podcast studio in beautiful downtown Jackson, Tennessee, and we have a treat today. Just recently, Mayor BW Beasley was named the 2026 Tennessee Municipal League Mayor of the Year. And Mayor Beasley is our guest today, and we're going to talk about his beautiful town and a lot of things he's been involved with. So with that, Mayor Beasley, welcome to RuralStrong.
Thank you, Joe. The way you introduced me made me think about how many different names I've got. So I'm not going to tell you what my wife calls me, but if you were at UT Martin or went to high school with me, as me and you were at UT Martin together, people call me Billy Warren Beasley.
Billy Warren.
And if learned when you get out in the business world, as I was with a publishing company for about 30 years, if you tried to use a double name, that the Warren all of a sudden became your last name. Hey, Mr. Warren. So they forgot the Beasley altogether. So that's how BW came about right there. So.
All right, Mayor. I think you're in your third term.
I am.
Correct?
Correct.
And you mentioned the business world. So first of all, I want you to tell our listeners a little bit about Milan, the size of Milan, where it's located, so they can get a sense of your community.
Yeah, we're just over 20 miles north of Jackson, Tennessee, and Milan is now the largest city in Gibson County. We're about 8,200. That's as of the last census, and we continue to grow. And I know we're going to touch on a lot of those things when we talk about economic development, but Milan really is on the move. I've been in office now about 10 years, and we had some struggles early on, but financially we were a little bit weak when I took office, and we're very strong now financially. And what you know this, that allows you to match grants. When I first got in office, I couldn't rub two nickels together to match a grant. So you just struggle. So now we are where we can get grants and match them and move forward. And it's Milan is a special place right now, and it's moving really quickly into the future with some of the things we've got going, which I'm happy to talk about.
And what an honor to be named the Tennessee Municipal League Mayor of the Year.
Oh, my gosh.
I certainly was not surprised, but I understand you were a little bit surprised.
I was more than surprised. I was blown away. It really was a full circle moment. My wife is from Kingsport. She came to UT Martin over 50 years ago, and we met. And by the way, she's still mad at me for keeping her in West Tennessee. She thinks those East Tennessee mountains are something special. And the people from East Tennessee will know about Pal's. She misses Pal's restaurant tremendously. And while we were over there and at this conference where I got this amazing honor, she was able to visit with high school friends, and the big thing, eat at Pal's.
Eat at Pal's. That's I told the mayor earlier, we were talking a little bit, and he mentioned Pal's. And for those of you who are not familiar with it, it is an iconic place in East Tennessee.
It is, and I made the mistake in my acceptance speech that I mentioned that I was not going to share with the crowd how many chili hot dogs my wife could eat at Pal's, and she still reminded me I shouldn't have said that. So,
okay, and on into the program, we're going to talk about the economic development efforts in Milan, but I thought it would be interesting. You were in the business world, and I came from the business world into public service. Was going from the business world to public service what you thought it would be?
Oh my gosh! I didn't think I would never have thought that anything could move so slow in my life. I mean, as you know, in the business world, what you made me think of is your dad in the implement business selling tractors, and my family selling vehicles as well. We all came sort of
Sure.
from the same cut of cloth. But yeah, Joe, I had a lot to learn. I'd spent 30 years with a publishing company out of Massachusetts, lived in Tennessee, lived in Milan the whole time, but traveled the entire country. And it was a family-owned company, and things moved quickly. I mean, it was about 150 employees, but you could get decisions made and do the things we needed to do. So I was blindsided, so to speak, when I got into office. A lot of people were saying, "Mayor, just slow down. It's not going to happen that quick, or you're not going to get that road paved that quick, or that grant's not going to come that quick." And so, yeah, I was. It was a big change of pace. I'll put it that way.
I agree with you. We all think day one we're going to work into office and we've got this business background and we're going to put all those principles to work. And then I tell folks this story. One of the first things I found out is one of our departments needed a new pickup truck. Well, when you're in business, if you wake up one morning and decide that to make your operation more efficient, you're going to buy you a truck that day, and if you've got the cash or can borrow the money to buy it, by the end of the day, you got a pickup. But if one of your department heads comes to you and says, "We need a pickup truck," it is weeks and sometimes months before that can materialize. So
100%, yeah.
And so it's one of those things. And then the other thing is that I want you to talk about is a mayor is only as good as their council.
Oh, wow. Yeah, absolutely.
We find out in a hurry that there are great things we want to do and decisions we want to make, but if that council does not agree on it, you've got a long 4 years ahead of you. Would you agree?
Yeah, I 100% agree. And, and it really takes me back to the award that I just got. Even though it was presented to Billy Warren Beasley, BW, Mayor Milan, whatever, it's such a team. You know that. I mean, without a good board of aldermen and without good department heads and good employees, I mean, it is such a team effort. And I was actually talking to my chief of police just this morning about that. He was congratulating me on this award, and I said, his name's Bobby Sellers, and I said, "Bobby, I said, every one of our department heads has a great expertise in what they do." And I said, and I have certain strengths that blend in with you guys, and we make such a strong team. Now, you just put jets on that if you've got a great board of aldermen, which we do. We do go out of our way to make sure we educate each of our board members on any issues that are coming before the council. We spend a lot of time with that. Information is, that just makes everything go a lot smoother. So, again, I can't say enough about our board. I could start picking out individuals, but, I'm afraid I'd leave somebody out. But they're all really, really good. And here's the important part, and this is what makes them good. There's no agendas there. What they're all there for is to make Milan a better place to live. And when you got a team and everybody is focused on that, wow, powerful things happen within your community.
And I think one reason that's made you so successful, Mayor Beasley, and through the years and my experience working with mayors, and I've seen a lot come and go, is those that are successful understand early on that their position is not about them. It's about the people they serve. Those mayors I see that have a lot of trouble and have trouble with their council or commission, and most of the time have a lot of trouble dealing with the public, are those that think that when they were elected, it was an endorsement of them, which it was, but at the same time, that this whole process is really about them.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think if we can take that back to our mine and your and we'll talk about my career in the private sector, is once you've made a career which, I've pretty much had made my career. And then you think, well, it's time to give back, because I had been on the road. I'd been really all over the United States and really not truly given back to my community like I could have, should have. But we're raising families and you're trying to make a living and all those things. So when you get this opportunity and something inside you tells you that, hey, you might could run for mayor. And that rolls back to my grandfather, who was involved in politics from 1952 on and deeply involved in politics. And I never showed any interest in it, and I probably to his dismay. And oh my gosh, especially with this award just now, I would give anything if I could go back in time, or I could share this with him, and maybe he's looking down and loving this as well. So, but when you come at it from the approach that we were just talking about, that okay, it's time to give back. And you were born and raised in Milan, and you love the town, and you bleed purple, and you all you want to do is make it a better place, and you have the ability to pull people together. And we all think about our attributes, but I truly believe I have that one, and so then you go about it, and then you learn about some of the things that about how slow in this, but you can't give up. I mean, even though it's slow and you go, oh my gosh, I'll never get this done, you can't throw your hands up and give up. And we'll talk, I know you're probably going to bring up the Arsenal thing.
It's next.
Yeah. So that's a test in patience as we talk about that. You can't give up. And that's going to be, when we talk about that, that's a prime example, is you keep pushing forward, doing the day-to-day, and at the same time working on the big projects. Because I think that's what winds our clock. I always looked at this job as a three-legged stool. And one of them was the ceremonial part, which I enjoyed, going to reading to the young kids and going to the schools and cutting the ribbons for a new business. I mean, that's great. You get to promote your town and do things like that. And the other thing is being a manager for the whole city. You're managing all your departments. You're making sure it runs properly, efficiently, and smooth. So that's the second leg of the stool. But the third, where my passion really is economic development, and that's selling your town. And there's nothing I like more than being here today selling Milan, or being around the state selling Milan, or in some cases we have people from other countries that are looking at your town to bring a business or an industry, and you really get to sell then. And I love that part of the job.
Mayor, speaking of being a salesman, I remember when I first got elected, and I know you can't believe I actually had some critics, but I had a critic tell me one day, he says, "Joe, you're nothing but a salesman." And I said, in what we do, you better be a salesman. And I agree with you. Okay, let's talk about a project that to me is the epitome of perseverance. And I'm going to let you start about it's the project where the federal government, in particular the U.S. Army, owned a piece of property in the city of Milan, and you take it from there.
So my feeling was early on, when I got into office, I felt like we were somewhat being cut off at the vine. Medina, which is a great town, was growing like crazy, and you could almost feel some of the oxygen being sucked south. And I knew we had to position ourselves to have growth to the south. And with the Arsenal there, we had been locked in on Highway 45 south. But that gave us an opportunity to go to the United States Army and make a case for a land transfer. Now, first trip in the winter of 2016, we took a team up there, and they showed me all these steps the Army would have to go through, and I went, yeah, okay, we're going to do all that. I fully expected 3 years we'd have it.
Tell our listeners exactly what was operated there for many years on this piece of property.
Yeah, that's a good question. So it's about 22,000 acres. The city of Milan only got about 300. Once it has shut down, which it did about 10 years ago, So there's really no employment out there. There's none now, but when I took office, there was still security and some administrative folks out there. At one time during World War II, it was up to, I believe, around 10,000 people that employed from all over West Tennessee. It's just an amazing piece of property that was there, now laying dormant. So
and they manufactured munitions.
They did. Sorry, yeah, munitions. Yeah, grenades. Munitions for World War II, Vietnam. Every war on through Desert Storm and all the rest. So they manufactured munitions. And there's still igloos out there where they store things. So about 16,000 acres of that now is already been transferred to the Tennessee National Guard, and they'll be doing training out there, which is really good for us. They're gonna, when they're fully up and running, and it may take several years. I mean, they're already bringing maybe 500 people through a year, but literally there could be 5,000 people coming through doing training there, which will allow them to spend money in Milan, stay in Milan, and so it's a really good thing. They'll be bringing in Guard units from other states even when they're fully operational. So we're excited about that too. I mean, that's again another piece to the puzzle. When I go out selling for anything and talk about numbers, that's one of the numbers that I talk about. So anyway, yeah, a lot went on out there. It was a big part of West Tennessee, not just Milan through all these wars. But in 2016, I started the trips to D.C., and I would do 2 or 3 a year. Congressman Kustoff was instrumental, as all our Tennessee delegation was, in helping me. But certainly Congressman Kustoff and his staff took the lead on it. And we would meet with them at least twice a year. And they were shocked at how long this was going to take as we moved into 2 and 3 years and then 5 years. And then, I would be told we've got to do some more environmental things out there, in which the land is clean. This was our agricultural land. There was no munitions made on the land the city's getting. But
and the city wanted this parcel of land for economic development.
Exactly right. Exactly right. Early on, I'd envisioned possibly maybe some housing and some other things out there. The United States Army put some restrictions on us, which is fine. We can grow. We have ways to grow housing in other places, and we can talk about that if you like, because we're moving there too. So this land, because of some of the restrictions that were put on, is primarily going to be for industrial and commercial use. And again, it will allow us to grow south. But yes, 10 years, a total of 10 years. And in April of this year at our chamber banquet, we did a ceremony of transfer of property. So Milan owns it now. We're in the process of doing a master plan on it with an engineering firm and that we work with a lot. And we've gotten a grant from ECD. I had, again, knowing coming into this, I never would have thought a master plan would cost $200,000 or $300,000, but you live and you learn, and thank goodness there are grants for things like that out there. So ECD is being very kind to us, and it's a great piece of property. I know they're going to help us market it, and we're looking forward to. We really need to get that master plan done before we get too far ahead of ourselves. So.
In this process, Mayor, when you're talking about a 10-year period of time, administrations change. The players change sometimes. So how big a challenge was that?
That was a big challenge because it was Lamar Alexander and Senator Corker were there along with Congressman Kustoff when we started this, and we had staffers and met with those folks. We met with both senators and the Congressman Kustoff, and as you know, as those folks retired and moved on, we had both new staffers and new senators, and we had to develop those relationships. And I know, you know this better than anything, especially coming from the private sector. Relationships are everything in the world. So those relationships we have built with some people, we had to start all over. And because without those, it doesn't move forward. I mean, even with everybody, with a congressman behind us and senators behind us, you still have to keep building those relationships. I'll share a quick story with you that I used to tell a team that worked for me in the private sector. And that is it, and you and I remember because we're of that age, but the old Ed Sullivan Show and the guy that spun plates on top of sticks.
Yeah.
So he would get them all spinning and try to add one more, and he'd spin it and go back and keep the other ones going and go put another plate on top of a stick and spin it. So the analogy there is you've got these relationships. You've got to build new ones. So you've still got to, cultivate those old ones, work on those old ones, and then go ahead and build you some new relationships. So I use that same analogy really in any kind of sales. You got to keep your customer base. You've got to keep those plates spinning, but you've got to go out and find some new customers. So I've used that a lot, and I always looked at it that way. You never stop building relationships, whether it be in Washington, D.C. or Nashville, Tennessee, Jackson, Tennessee, which we have some great partners, you and the rest over here that do a great job for us. But wow, I mean, you have to put effort into it.
And speaking of that analogy with the plates, every now and then one would fall off and break. You remember that?
I do.
And then he'd have to go back and get it to going again.
Oh, yeah.
So, but I remember that very well. All right. Talk about other things. You mentioned housing. In every rural community, I would say in the nation, when you go and have a public gathering, housing always comes up. So how's Milan attacking this challenge?
So, again, right off the bat, almost before I stepped into the office door, the city owned about 42 acres of property on the south side of Milan, prime real estate that had been a Tennessee select site for industrial development. The city had tried to market it for over 25 years and no takers. And you know this, if 42 acres, people are looking for much more than that. So, that was one of the issues there. But, oh my, it was perfect for a new housing development. I mean, so one of the first things I did when I came into office, hey, we're not marketing that for industrial use. We're not going to have somebody come here and get a pilot and bring in 40 jobs for a few years, type a great piece of property, and then leave after the pilot goes away. So that was first order of business. So we made a change there. We were going to start asking developers in the area, come look at this piece of property. We're going to be putting it up for bid and get some housing going in Milan. But let me back up just a little. Because I want to talk about the building blocks before you can get to housing in my mind, and I've sort of always looked at it this way, is to bring people to Milan to want to live, to get those houses in there, you've got to do some work before that's going to happen. Even though I knew what I was going to do with that property, how do I build a need to come to Milan? So the first two building blocks that we already had, but we had to promote it, is you got to have a great school system, and you got to have a low crime rate, or public safety's got to be top notch. We had both of those and just didn't talk about it. So, off the bat, I had some building blocks to start building on bringing people to Milan. So the next steps, what else will bring folks here? So people love amenities. So, we have a great park, but there was so much more we could do with it. So to give you an example of that, we were one of the first communities in West Tennessee to build brand new pickleball courts. Now, luckily, I was familiar with that world because I'd played racquetball in Jackson for 45 years or so, and all my racquetball friends were now playing pickleball, so I knew about it. Now, it hadn't exploded yet, but you could see it coming. So we stepped out on a limb, built 6 brand new courts, and man, did that catch fire just a year later. So, but not only that, we reconfigured our softball fields. We've done a whole, we continue to go after park grants. So, and one of the things I'm most proud of, we built a 1-mile walking track out from Highway 45 to our city park down 104. It took 1 mile. night lighting on it. If you're on that at night, it looks like you're in Nashville, Tennessee. It's beautiful. So our citizens love it. But not only, when you do things like that, you're doing it for the citizens, but people are looking at you and going, wow, they're moving forward. They're doing some of the right things. So amenities was a big, big part of it. And the other part of that was events. We had let all of our events go. We had one left that it was doing pretty good. We started doing big 4th of July celebrations. We started doing Easter egg hunts. I know you've heard about Milan One Table, where on Thanksgiving, we put a table down the middle of Main Street. It's a free Thanksgiving meal to anybody that wants to come, and you sit right in the middle of Main Street and have your Thanksgiving dinner. And we have Gibson County elected officials come to serve. It's a great event. And then we really put a lot of emphasis on our fall festival, and it is growing like crazy, and it's huge. So again, it's bringing people to Milan. Now they're coming to Milan to not only eat Lee's chicken or visit some of the places. They're doing our parks. They're coming to our events. And now people are looking at us. I might want to live there. So now we're looking at rooftops. Rooftops transfer into retail. So now we got people coming. Our town's growing, and we've got developers wanting to build. And so that development that we were talking about has got phase 1 and 2 done. It's got about 5 more to go. And that's not the only one. We have 3 other developments that are in the process right now and another one on the planning block. So housing is coming, but we put a lot of work in on the front end to have these developers and people take a look at us. Oh, there's there's a market here. People are wanting to move and shop and play in Milan. And so I tell people all the time, it's a puzzle. And it's taken us 10 years. I mean, we've been working on this puzzle for 10 years, and in a big way, it's coming together for our city.
Mayor, how do you approach the fact that you're 20 miles from a major retail hub, which is Jackson, that has a lot of amenities here? And, many times I see communities that are in this close proximity that sort of throw up their hands and say, we're losing all our tax dollars. Folks go there to work, they spend their money, and then they come back home and we're having to take care of all their services. But it seems like your approach is that there's enough for everybody, and that really, and I'm sure you do, you can look at some of the things Jackson has as a strength to promote Milan.
Oh, 100%. It's about perspective. It's about how you look at things. So just think about if you lived in Memphis or Nashville, Tennessee. Are you going to think twice about driving 20 minutes on the other side of town to eat or just on what part of town? You drive 20 minutes anywhere you go because of the traffic, really.
If 20 minutes would be a close trip for you.
Exactly. So that's sort of our perspective. If we hear that, we'd use that same analogy. Man, you can have the finest restaurants ever. They're 25 minutes away, anything you want. Jackson is an extension of Milan, or Milan is an extension of Jackson. So when it goes back to regional cooperation, we all work together, we all talk, and when we talk about ourselves as one, then those barriers come down really quick. And then it's not hard to explain, hey, that's no barrier at all. That's nothing but a plus. That's an asset to Milan. So,
well, you've done a great job. And in the time we've got left, we have a lot of local elected officials that listen to our podcast. And, you're a veteran now, 3rd term. What advice could you give a newly elected official? We're having elections in Tennessee this year. And if somebody came to you and said, Mayor, I see you've been very successful in Milan, what advice could you give?
Well, I mean, it's to me, it's fairly simple. And that is, you've got to listen. Good listeners are so important. And it goes back even in any of the relationships we build, if you're trying to talk to somebody and you know they're thinking about what they're going to say next and they're not really listening to you, they know that. They know that. So that's the same way with the constituents or the citizens of Milan. If they call my office, I always talk to them. If they want to call back, I call them back. I mean, and you just can't turn your back on really the people that made your town and the people that elected you. So my advice would be, if you're running for office, knock on every door. I knocked on every door with the help of my dad. He had been he had been in Milan for a long time. He'll be 99 in October, by the way, and he helped push our new fire truck into the station the other day. So he's amazing. I hope I got a teaspoon of his genes. But when we would go knock on a door, in many cases, I wasn't sure who that family was, and this is the first run. He goes, now, they bought a Buick from us in 1958. It was green. Their daughter took it to college. By the time I got to the door, how is your daughter doing? So and I really had to start building those relationships back in Milan. Even though I'd lived there, my brother had a local tire and battery shop. My dad had been fire chief and had several businesses. But I don't know that a lot of them knew who Billy Warren Beasley was. Many of my age did, but I had to reintroduce myself to Milan, Tennessee. And thankfully for me that they embraced my family for many years when we were in the car business, and my granddad and all that history that weighs heavily on me to do a good job. Not only do I want to do it for the citizens, but I think every day I want to make my family proud, and that sort of motivates me in a big, big way. So you got to go out there, you got to knock on the doors, you got to hug them and kiss them and let them know you care about them, and I think that's a secret to relationship success and being a good mayor.
And how do you handle that constituent that is not real happy when they speak to you? Because, they're still your constituent. They're still a resident of your city. And I know you've always had an open door policy. How do you handle those folks?
Well, my staff at City Hall are sometimes amazed at me when they come in the door and they have a little bit of an attitude, let's say. So I'll leave them, either they'll be guided back to my office, or sometimes there's a room right there and we'll go have a chat. And you start out like we all do, and if you're selling something, how's your family, how you doing? You talk about everything else first, and then say, now tell me about what the problem is. Well, by the time you've had a 5-minute conversation about family or how great Milan's doing or whatever, they still have their concerns, but it's not quite as gruff as it was when they walked in that door. You have a civil conversation. You let the folks know you're going to do everything you can to help them. And if you can help them, and many times as they walk out that door, before they're even gone, I'll call a department head and say, hey, we've got a pothole over on Elm Street. We need to get that fixed, whatever. So I try to take action as quick as possible.
Well, you've done a great job, and we could talk for hours.
Yes, we could.
And so my invitation to you is I want to get you to come back, and we can really expand on some of the subjects, because we both, I think, love public service. But I think the number one thing that comes through with Mayor Beasley is he loves his community. And, people run for public office for different reasons, and sometimes those reasons aren't real noble sometimes. But if you love your community, I really think, Mayor, most of the time it works out.
Well, I think I talked to you before I ever ran. I said, Joe, what do you think about me running? He said, if you love your community, go for it. So I thank you.
Well, you've been great, and our guest today has been the 2026 Tennessee Municipal League Mayor of the Year, Mayor BW Beasley of beautiful Milan, Tennessee. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, Joe.
Thanks for joining us on RuralStrong. If you found this helpful, share it, and follow the show for more insights from rural leaders making a real difference. Until next time, stay rural strong.